Most people think emotional detachment means something is wrong with you. They see someone calm, distant, unaffected, and they assume it's weakness, or worse, that it's a lack of feeling. But what if that silence isn't emptiness? What if it's control? A Sigma male doesn't disconnect because he feels nothing. He disconnects because he feels everything and refuses to let it control him. In a world where people react instantly, overshare emotions, and let their mood decide their actions, emotional detachment looks strange. But for a Sigma, it's not about shutting down, it's about staying grounded. He can feel pressure without breaking, experience anger without reacting, and face chaos without losing himself. And that's where people get confused. They think he doesn't care, they think he's cold, they think he's distant. But the truth is, he just doesn't let emotions run his life. Because once you let every feeling control your decisions, you lose clarity. So the real question is not whether emotional detachment is good or bad. The real question is, are you in control of your emotions, or are they controlling you? Emotional detachment as self-control. Most people think emotional detachment means not caring. They assume that if someone stays calm, doesn't react, or doesn't show strong emotions, it's because something is missing. But for a Sigma male, emotional detachment is not about absence. It's about control. He still feels everything: anger, frustration, pressure, even disappointment. The difference is that he doesn't allow those emotions to dictate his actions. While most people react instantly, he creates space between what he feels and how he responds. And in that space, he gains control. Instead of speaking out of anger, he pauses. Instead of reacting to pressure, he observes. Instead of letting emotions take over, he processes them. This gives him an advantage in situations where others lose control. When things get tense, he stays composed. When people try to provoke him, he doesn't fall into the trap. Not because he doesn't feel anything, but because he understands that reacting emotionally often leads to mistakes. For him, emotional detachment is a tool. It allows him to think clearly, act with intention, and avoid unnecessary drama. It protects his focus, his peace, and his decision-making. Because in a world where most people are controlled by their emotions, he is the one controlling them. The difference between control and suppression. Most people confuse emotional control with emotional suppression. They think staying calm means pushing feelings away, ignoring them, or pretending they don't exist. But there's a big difference, and a Sigma male understands it clearly. Control means awareness. Suppression means avoidance. When a Sigma male feels something, he doesn't panic or try to hide it. He doesn't tell himself, "I shouldn't feel this." Instead, he acknowledges it. He observes the emotion, understands where it's coming from, and lets it pass without turning it into a reaction. But suppression works differently. When someone suppresses emotions, they push them down. They ignore anger instead of understanding it. They hide frustration instead of processing it. And over time, those emotions don't disappear. They build up. They turn into stress, overthinking, or sudden reactions later on. A Sigma male avoids that trap. He doesn't run from his emotions, and he doesn't let them control him either. He finds a balance. He feels without reacting blindly, and he thinks without disconnecting completely. That's what makes his calmness real. Because it's not forced. It's built on understanding, not denial. And once you understand this difference, you realize something important. Being in control of your emotions is strength, but pretending they don't exist is weakness. Why people misunderstand Sigma detachment? Most people are used to emotional reactions. They expect visible expressions. Excitement when something is good, anger when something goes wrong, sadness when things fall apart. For them, emotions are something you show openly, something that proves you care. So when they see someone who doesn't react the same way, they get confused. That's exactly what happens with a Sigma male. He doesn't react the way people expect. He doesn't raise his voice when he's upset. He doesn't overexpress when he's happy. And he doesn't constantly seek validation through emotions. From the outside, this can look like distance, like he's disconnected, like nothing affects him. But that's not the truth. The truth is, he just processes things internally. Instead of showing everything, he understands it first. He takes time to think before reacting. He keeps his emotions controlled, not because they're weak, but because he knows how powerful they can be if left unchecked. The problem is, most people don't see that depth. They judge based on what's visible. And when they don't see strong emotional reactions, they assume there are no emotions at all. They mistake calmness for coldness. silence for indifference, control for lack of care. But in reality, it's the opposite. A Sigma male often feels more than he shows. He just chooses not to express everything outwardly. And that choice creates misunderstanding, because people expect emotional noise, not emotional discipline. And that's the gap. People expect reactions, but he chooses control. The hidden cost of emotional detachment. From the outside, emotional detachment looks powerful. Staying calm, not reacting, not getting emotionally involved in everything, it seems like the perfect way to live. No drama, no stress, no unnecessary conflict. But what most people don't see is that this control comes with a cost. Because when you constantly choose detachment, you also create distance. At first, it feels like clarity. You stop engaging in things that don't matter, you protect your energy, and you move through life with more control. But over time, that same habit can make it harder to connect with people on a deeper level. Conversations start to feel surface level, emotional moments feel harder to express, and even when you're around others, there's a sense of separation. Not because you want it, but because you've trained yourself to stay guarded. A Sigma male often carries this quietly. He can be surrounded by people and still feel alone, not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle, constant way. Like he understands more than he shares, feels more than he shows, and connects less than he could. And there's also the internal side. When you don't express emotions often, they don't just disappear. They stay inside, processed but not always released. Over time, that can turn into mental pressure, overthinking, or a sense of emotional weight that builds slowly. The hardest part is, it's invisible. From the outside, everything looks under control, calm, stable, strong. But inside, there are moments where the silence feels heavier than expected. And that's the trade-off. Emotional detachment gives you control, but if you're not careful, it can also take away connection. When detachment becomes a weakness, emotional detachment can be a powerful tool until it starts controlling you instead of the other way around. At first, it feels like strength. You're calm, focused, unaffected by drama. You don't react to everything, and you protect your peace. But over time, if you're not careful, that same detachment can slowly turn into something limiting, because there's a fine line between control and disconnection. When detachment becomes a habit in every situation, you stop opening up, even when it matters. You avoid emotional conversations, not because they're unnecessary, but because they feel uncomfortable. You keep everything inside, not because you're strong, but because you don't know how to express it anymore. And that creates distance. Not just from others, but from yourself. You start to feel less connected to moments, less engaged in relationships, and less present in experiences that actually matter. Opportunities for real connection pass by because you're always staying guarded. And over time, what once protected you begins to isolate you. A Sigma male understands this risk. That's why true strength is not just about detaching. It's about knowing when not to. Knowing when to open up, when to trust, and when to allow yourself to feel without fear of losing control. Because real control is not about shutting everything down. It's about choosing when to stay calm and when to be human. At the end of the day, emotional detachment is not simply strength or weakness. It's a tool. In the right hands, it creates clarity, control, and stability. But when it goes too far, it can lead to distance, isolation, and missed connections. The real power of a Sigma male is not just in staying detached, but in knowing when to engage and when to step back. Balance is what turns control into strength. If this made you think differently, make sure to subscribe for more content on mindset and psychology. Now ask yourself, are you using detachment, or is it using you?